Greetings, my fellow traditionalist Catholics. This is Sergio Becerra II, and welcome back to my channel. So, as we all know, that last week, that Antipope Leo XIV met with King Charles III of Great Britain. So, this was actually the first time that an English monarch has met with a quote-unquote pope. That is by which we all know already, as fellow Sedevacantists, that Leo XIV is not the true pope. This has actually been the first time someone like Charles III has, well, we know in the past he has gone to Rome and has met with Leo XIV's quote-unquote predecessor, Antipope Francis, back when he was still the Prince of Wales, and then finally as king before Francis's death, now with Leo XIV. As we all know, the Church's past relationships between the Holy See and England have been rocky since the English Reformation that started under King Henry VIII, who at one time was Catholic, but became Protestant when Pope Clement VII denied him a divorce, which caused Henry not only to actually divorce himself from the Catholic Church, but to break alliances. Well, not. Well, I'm sorry. Let me repeat that. Not only to divorce himself from the Catholic Church, but to break alliances and obedience from the Holy See. As we already know, that Henry VIII had trouble trying to get a male heir to one day succeed him because he knew there were other claimants, like the Plantagenets, that could reclaim the throne, or others that could. So we all know that Henry had gone through 6 different marriages, going back with his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, who at one time had been married to Henry's older brother, Prince Arthur. And as we all know, with Catherine of Aragon's history, had been pregnant by Henry 6 times when she was queen. The only surviving child was the future Queen Mary the First. So, as we all know, not only is Leo XIV a Vatican II apostate and heretic, Charles III also a Protestant heretic, who is to this day, like other English monarchs of the English Reformation of the false Anglican Church, defender of the faith. Well, that title was given to King Henry during the pontificate of Pope Leo X for standing up to Martin Luther in his heretical reformed ways. But so yes, this was actually the first time that Leo XIV has met with a monarch. We know he met with King Felipe VI of Spain, a Catholic king, when Leo was sworn into his quote-unquote pontificate. As we all know, as I have said, the relationship between England and the Holy See has been rocky since Henry VIII. The last 2 times England had 2 Catholic monarchs would be none other than Henry's elder daughter, Queen Mary the First, who was also the daughter to Catherine of Aragon, who, after the death of Mary's youngest brother, that would be King Edward VI, who was a Protestant, took the throne, finally returned England back to a Catholic monarchy, a Catholic kingdom. And then decades later, during the Stuart dynasty, that would be King James II, who, while the Stuart family was in exile in Europe, James had been fascinated by everything that was Catholic, everything of all of Catholicism, which he adored, because James II's brother, Charles II, didn't have a legitimate heir to the throne because Charles II had illegitimate children, at least 9 with one or more mistresses. And history was hard on James II because England had finally broke away from Rome, and England was not even happy having a Catholic monarch on the throne. One thing was for sure to prove that England was still anti-Catholic was that not long after James II had become king, the English military had to swear allegiance not only to the king but also to the Anglican Church. Or I might have gotten that wrong. I apologize. Maybe just to England and the Anglican Church, but not to the king. Can't remember because I've done some research on it before, and I can't recall how the allegiance went when James II took the throne. So now, so as we already know that Leo XIV, who met with King Charles, held a public prayer inside the Sistine Chapel, along with Queen Camilla. Of course, the prayers were in Latin as well. But let me point something out here. The Anglican Church in the UK is really falling apart. It has become a mess right now. And there's a lot there have been a lot of changes within that church over the centuries. By the way, the Anglican Church is not a real church. This was all invented by an English king, a 400-pound English king who couldn't get a divorce from Pope Clement VII in the first place, and decided to break away from not only from the Catholic Church but also from Rome, which goes against, I would say, in my opinion, goes against the papal bull Unum Sanctum, Latin for one holy, that was written in the early 14th century under Pope Boniface VIII, which the faithful had to swear allegiance to the Roman Pontiff. It wasn't just to Christ and the Church alone, but the Roman Pontiff, who is God's representative on earth, because Pope Boniface had been in verbal conflicts with Philip IV of France. So this visitation was one thing, but both Leo XIV and Charles III are heretics. They're, one thing's for sure, Leo XIV is not a real Catholic. He sounds more like a Protestant than a real Catholic because Antipope Francis was more pro Martin Luther than being pro Catholic. And I don't, and there's no doubt that Leo XIV, including Francis, they were against, well, probably against the dogmas, but didn't believe in the dogmas. Probably didn't believe in the Gospels, without a doubt. But as for Charles, I don't really know. All I know is that he's really just a notorious Protestant. He's just a notorious Protestant heretic. But one thing is for sure, what England is really falling apart because they have allowed a massive amount of migrants, not just from the Middle East and from Africa, but there's no doubt a lot of them are practicing Muslims, and not only that, they are radicalized Muslims. And to prove that Charles is not a true Christian and that he is a heretic, he seems to side more with radical Islamists than he is with his own people as a Christian. And here's the thing: if he's called the defender of the faith, which is the Anglican faith, and that he's putting Islamists before the religion that he is supposed to defend that not only is he not a true Christian, which he is not, by the way, but he is no longer a king, which a lot of Christians in Britain have realized themselves. And the thing is, not just putting a lot of these radical Islamists first, but he hasn't even addressed his own people, native Brits, who are struggling financially and economically, try to maintain a better life. But since the current Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, he is just a disaster. The current Liberal Labour Party is just out of control. They want Starmer and the Labour Party gone. And they're already fed up because they're putting these Middle Eastern migrants ahead of them. And there's just a lot that you won't hear on any mainstream media outlet channel, but on social media. And believe me, I've seen a lot of it just about on every social media platform from Twitter and Instagram, and it's just out of control because typical mainstream media outlets like Fox News, Newsmax, CNN, they will not report on it. You would only find this on social media platforms because no one's ever going to touch this, and it's out of control. And the British have had enough. They want their country back. They want these Islamists and other people that just illegally come into the country and use up the resources in which the average taxpayer of Britain, their money is going to people who had no business being in England in the first place, and they have just about had it, and they want them gone. And the king is not doing anything, and since King Charles has already proven to be a globalist, and of course a liberal, he sides with everything with Keir Starmer is doing and the Labour Party. So I don't think he's even like at least talk to his own people, native Brits. He has not said a thing to address the matter, not even once since becoming king. And I feel bad for the British because they can't even fly their own native flag anymore. They can't even fly the flag of Great Britain. They can't even fly the St. George cross flag uh, that was flown before Scotland and England had united, which became um, Great Britain, the original flag of England, because not only native Brits are offended by it, which I don't understand why, but these Islamists, these infidels, these Saracens that practice the satanic faith, the satanic pagan, these these Middle Easterns that practice the satanic pagan religion called Islam are also offended by the British flag. And what we've seen so far, a lot of these people are flying the flags of Palestine and flags of terrorist groups like Hamas. And it's just out of control. England, a lot of people have said, has already fallen to Islamists, and it's just out of control. You've had people who practice the Muslim religion have like entered the British government, especially I don't know how the British government works really, except all I know that it is under control of a monarchy. But not only that, there are also Sharia law courts in the UK, and that's just insane that that's being allowed and nothing's being addressed. Mosques are being built just about everywhere, and just about every town and every street is just being taken over by radical Islamists. And yet King Charles hasn't done nothing but um, this visitation with King Charles and Leo the 14th. It just comes to show they are not real Christians. They're they are both apostates and heretics. They do not really embrace the true Catholic faith, and which has already been addressed not just by myself, but Vatican Catholic by Brother Peter Diamond. According to Pope Saint Celestine I, any Roman pontiff that preaches heresy loses his office, and from what we've seen already from Francis and Leo the 14th, and especially all the Vatican II anti-popes, they are heretics. They're preaching heresy, and therefore their offices are invalid, which they are, by the way. And this goes against everything that Catholic teachings in the Bible have talked about, that there is only one true church. There's only one true religion, only one true God. And now, even though King Charles's mother, Queen Elizabeth II, who I did adore and support, by the way, I mean, she was also the head of the English Church, but no doubt a Protestant heretic as well, which Vatican Catholic has talked about before, which I do believe, but I did support her during her reign when she was queen. Charles, I'm kind of like disappointed with, really, I'm just disappointed with him. We already know about Charles's past already, especially with his original marriage with Princess Diana, and now with Camilla, which a lot of people, not just in Britain and around the world, they do not like Camilla one bit. They really like Diana the most. She was the people's princess, which a lot of believe should have been the real queen, but because of Charles's infidelity in the past, which later caused a divorce, and then later on her untimely death. Now, we already know that Prince William, the current Prince of Wales, he will be the next in line. He's already now heir to the throne, will be the next king. No doubt he'll take the title William V, since there's already been four King Williams already. We don't know what will happen when William becomes king. Whether he's going to address the problem that's hurting the UK, especially with these Muslim migrants, or he's just going to leave it all the same. All I know, there will be changes to the monarchy, like once William is king. And I know William is Protestant too, but I do like William because he has shown that he is like ready to be king, especially like right now with Charles's cancer diagnosis right now, which he has been on top of so far. We already know once that news broke up about Charles's Charles's cancer diagnosis, William has like been on top of a lot of things. So knowing that he is like ready to become king. But for this visit with Antipope Leo the 14th, I don't think it really strengthened relationships between England and the Holy See, in my opinion. Somewhat of a weak friendship, I would say, in my opinion. But no, I don't think England is ever going to wake up unless it really does wake up. Then they will return to Catholicism, because the Anglican Church is just a mess. And last but not least, we already know recently that the UK has its very first female Archbishop of Canterbury. Name I don't recall, but it's not looking. Some people are just finding it ridiculous, especially among Catholics such as myself, who find it like ridiculous, because the last time there was a Catholic Archbishop of Canterbury was Cardinal Reginald Pole, who had been in exile for many years in Rome since Henry VIII was king at the time, because he was purging England of everything that was Catholic, especially the monasteries. abbeys and convents. So it wouldn't be until Mary the First took the throne that he would return to England, seeing how much England has changed since Henry's reign. And I honestly, I did. To be honest with you, I haven't looked up Reginald Pole's history. I'm pretty sure he was still around when Elizabeth I took the throne. Honestly, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at Pole's background, which I should have done before even doing this video. But I just wanted to address this meeting and public prayer with Antipope Leo XIV and King Charles III. I just want to say this to the people of England. You really need to make your voices known. You need to speak up, fight hard, and you need not only uh, speak up to your king that things in your country are out of control and a disaster for what's happening. You need to dump the Anglican faith and return back to Catholicism, because your Protestant churches, not just Anglicanism, but Presbyterian and Baptist churches, I mean, they're not worth it. You need to return back to the true faith, which is Roman Catholicism. You've been known, have been known to be for many centuries up until Henry VIII, and then because England's history has been known that at a time you were anti-Catholic, purging Catholics from throughout the UK, and now your Anglican Church, especially under the King, is just becoming bad, especially with a female Archbishop of Canterbury. It's time to really back away from the Anglican faith and return back to the Catholic faith. But the real, true Catholic faith that really supports the dogmas and the Catholic teachings before Vatican II, not post Vatican II, and not show allegiance directly to Leo XIV, because the last true pope we had was Pius XII. So better for you to be a traditional Catholic, especially a Sedevacantist, and that way you would have more understandings of the true Catholic faith, not Vatican II, because Vatican II is just a counterfeit religion pretending to be the Catholic faith, which by the way, it sounds more the uh, the teachings of Vatican II sound more Protestant than being truly Catholic. And that and Vatican II is just a made up end times counter church religion, not the real Catholic Church. But once again, this visit with Leo XIV by King Charles, I mean, may have been. I mean, this ain't the first time that the king has visited the Holy See, but I don't think it really meant nothing at this point. But England, you need to wake up. Not only do you need to speak up and that you're fed up with what's going on in your country, you need to speak up to your king, and you want things to change. Because I have a feeling that within the next 10 to 30 years, you're going to lose your country completely to these Islamists, to these radical Islamists who are showing more that they want to get rid of your culture, which you've been known for centuries, and force their culture down your throat, which you don't want, by the way. They just want their culture in another land to feel more comfortable, but they want to shove it down your throats by force, even if it means by death, in which you are pushing back as much as possible, because I feel bad that a lot of people are ridiculously being thrown into prison over anti-immigration posts, especially anti-Hamas posts on social media, and then get thrown in prison for it, so that nobody is offended. But I would have to say, some people have said that a lot of you in Britain had voted for this, but now you kind of like regret it. But it's kind of like too late. The damage is done. But now is the time to really like push back on your prime minister, and you really really need to let your king know that you're tired of it, and you want things to change like now. So I'll say this for the last time: this meeting with Leo the 14th and Charles III, I don't think it meant nothing. Just a public prayer, just to cozy up. Just these two men just cozying up to one another. But in England, you need to wake up. So tell me what you think in the comments below. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell beside it, and wait for future updates. All right, this wraps it up for this video. Take care now. Bye.